Why did the Radnor Township Board of Commissioners impose a 6% tax increase on residents while it sits on a reserve of $9.6 million? That's one of the important issues we'll be discussing with 6th Ward Commissioner Jake Abel in this edition of Commissioner's Corner, a series of programs, public service programs, produced by MLTV to keep residents apprised of issues in the township that affect the quality of life for Radnor residents. Commissioner Abel, nice to see you again.
Glad to be back.
It is the holiday season, so we'll try to be jovial and happy and merry. Although these are pretty heavy issues, some of them anyway.
Yeah.
But let's start with taxes. This is something that everybody's interested in. I did not know until you made me aware of it because I wasn't paying attention, and shame on me, that the board had an option. Why did they decide to impose a 6% tax increase while they're sitting on $9.6 million? Well, what are they anticipating?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of options, and over the last few months, I mean, the one thing we've known over the last year, 2 years, is that business taxes continue to go down.
Yes.
So we really have two options. You know, we can cut spending, or we can increase taxes. And this board, over the last 2 years, has decided to increase taxes. And this year, as you said, was 6%. I proposed that we not increase taxes this year after an increase last year, and use the $9+ million we have in general reserve. You know, we were looking at an $800,000 gap. So to withdraw $800,000 from the general fund.
That 6% is going to fill the gap, $800,000?
Yeah. I thought it would have been a better option and better for the residents, better for the township if we would have pulled it from the general fund, not had a tax increase this year, and then really focus next year on some of the things that I proposed over the last few months is cutting different programs. So while our business taxes have gone down, we continue to increase spending on programs. So, you know, the library, for example.
Were you alone on this? Was there any support?
I could tell there was interest, but probably not enough discussion for people to change their minds at the last minute.
But it was a block vote. Yeah.
So you know, I proposed, and there wasn't enough interest to move that forward.
All right. There's several other issues. You have taken on the mantle of, if not watchdog, some people would say Don Quixote, as you tilled at these windmills. And I know you'll continue to do it. But it's going to be even more difficult, isn't it, now that you have a board where the majority is even greater than it was before? It's a 5-2 board now, right?
It will be 5-2 in January.
It will be in January, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's...
I know you tried to mediate and establish alliances, but partisan politics does continue to get in the way.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think the national scene bleeds over into the local level, and I'm trying to avoid that and stay out of that fray, and continue to work with individuals and try to find people, colleagues on the board that share similar values and work with them on those issues and try to garner the majority on that issue.
Then why did you vote against the Garrett Hill settlement?
Well, so the Garrett Hill settlement, it's a bit complex. So in the Garrett Hill neighborhood, there's a Garrett Hill overlay district, and it's separate from the Garrett Hill at large. And there's a 30-foot restriction on building. So a builder comes in, submits his permits, and doesn't realize that his permit is for 36 feet, and there's a 30-foot restriction. The township approves it. So now we're in this legal battle.
Are you saying there's a jurisdiction within the community?
Correct. There's a little pocket
that supersedes the Radnor?
Yes.
How can that be?
The neighbors worked several years ago to form this overlay district and had it, and a previous board passed it. So, I mean, fast forward to today.
Yes.
We had a builder. You know, he lost at the zoning hearing board. He had the option to go to media and sue the township, and likely would have won. So he entered into negotiations with the township. The negotiations were that he could keep the house at the current level, pay a fine, and that would be that. I think that was the best option we had available, because to take the dormer down would have left the structure still above 30 feet, and my goal was to get it below 30 feet. and I didn't want to go back to media and lose and pay legal fees. So I thought that was the best option, but I voted against it because it doesn't hold us accountable. The people who I think were largely responsible for the mistake.
Who approved it.
Yeah, we approved the permit, and yet we're nowhere involved in that settlement. I mean, there's no blame at the township level. So I did vote against it, and hope that we can, going forward, we're more accountable for our actions.
Were you alone on that one?
I believe it was a 5-1 vote. I was the sole dissent.
You were also in the minority voting against the resolution asking Villanova to contribute $250,000 to Radnor for
Correct.
First responder support services, fire services, and so on.
Right.
What's wrong with that?
Well, so
I mean, that's been, as you know, has been discussed for a long time.
yeah, it has been. It has been. The initial resolution only picked out Villanova as a not-for-profit. I'm glad that Commissioner Booker proposed including other universities in that resolution, and I did support that. But at the end of the day, I know there's negotiations and there's talks going on right now between Villanova and the fire department, and I didn't want this resolution to get in the way of those discussions continuing. I feel like if we continue to attack Villanova, there's a more likelihood that they're going to walk away and not do anything.
What would you favor? What would you support? Is there a number you would support? How much should Villanova or Cabrini or Eastern or any of the other colleges who benefit from Radnor Township's first responder services?
Sure. Well, what I would say is we also benefit from these universities.
Of course.
And look what Villanova puts back into the township in jobs. Students, parents come into our restaurants, our stores, small businesses. So I think there's a part of the story that, I'm not advocating for Villanova, but we also neglect to tell that side of the story. I would favor the universities or any not-for-profit providing what they think is appropriate, but I don't think going after them with resolutions, demanding and requesting that they provide. I think it has to be more of an open discussion.
Do you know I have no idea. Do you know the frequency that Villanova or the other institutions use Radnor's first responders, whether it's police or fire?
I don't have those numbers. They're out there, and that's something I can.
That'd be interesting to take a look at that frequency.
Yeah, I think.
And then put a dollar value on that.
I believe the fire department is working on those at the moment.
Okay. But you think someday, somehow, some resolution, we'll come to some resolution, and they will pay?
It's not going to come to it's not going to come through a township resolution. It's going to come through the not-for-profits.
Yes.
An initiative on their end.
There's nothing on the books now that requires a nonprofit who uses township services to pay for those services?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's wrong, isn't it?
No, legally it's not.
I understand. Today, legally it's not. I'm not asking whether it's legally wrong. I'm asking whether it's morally wrong. Shouldn't they have to pay for services that are provided by the taxpayer?
Hey, listen, I would encourage all not-for-profits that use our services to support.
Yeah, I think it would be fair.
But I think it's going to happen through everybody sitting around a table and having open discussion and cordial discussions, not the appearance of going after them.
I think you would know this better than I think there's plenty of evidence that Villanova, at least in recent years, maybe months, has been trying to be accommodating to the township. I think I saw in a Radnor magazine that there's some joint initiative on the part of Villanova and using the Villanova's conference center, I think it's called the Inn now at Villanova, for some event that is Radnor sponsored, township sponsored. So there seemed to be some collaboration.
And there's other ways that we partner.
Yeah.
So there's not a dollar amount associated with it. There could be if you wanted to go in
the
there.
point is that I think the animosity level, I'd like to think, has come down a little bit since all the buildings are up and they look terrific, and that they will certainly...
Well, they are coming back with another request for a building on campus.
Another one?
Yeah.
Where are they going to put another building?
Well, I think the idea is, and I haven't been following it all that closely, but I think they're looking to consolidate their engineering program into one building, so they're going to renovate a building on campus, a current structure.
Oh, okay. All right. But it's not a new building. And would it affect the footprint? Well, you probably don't know yet.
It was in planning earlier this week, and I haven't seen the meeting.
Okay, all right, well, the beat goes on, doesn't it? As you review this year, which has been a very active one for you and the rest of the board as well, can you tick off what you consider to be initiatives about which you have some pride?
Yeah, well, a couple come to mind. After the storm of August 2018, I really started to focus in on our first responders. I was pleased to hear and to see pictures where first responders used the new gear that the township provided, and they were doing water rescue training over the last couple weeks, which I'm very pleased to see. I'm happy, and hopefully we'll never have to use it. But if we do, they're not going to be going out there in their tennis shoes and shorts. There's also been a big push on making sure that they're fully funded. So we increased our budget again this year, and I think that's important for the township. Residents have to understand what it costs to run a fire department, and everybody, if there's a fire at your house, you expect a fire truck to show up and to be safe as possible, and there's a cost associated with that.
Our fire department is still completely voluntary, isn't it?
There's a few fully paid positions, but for the most part, it is volunteer.
And the ambulance service as well, is that part of the fire department, or is that separate?
No, they're co-joined.
They are, okay. Next?
Another issue is the Young Lungs at Play initiative. So we've restricted smoking in our parks.
Yes.
My kids, every time they see that sign when we go by South Devon, they smile and they're
My
pleased.
dad did that.
So that's something that will hopefully long after I'm gone, kids and families will benefit in Radnor Township. And then something that I wasn't part of a few years back, and former Commissioner Curley should take he gets the credit for, is Beauconnor Park and Phillip Home Park are under renovation. And will hopefully be completely open to the public within the next couple weeks. Something else, for the years to come, neighbors and residents will enjoy.
Yeah. Is there any credit you can take for the resolution of the Willows issue?
No,
you were in the thick of that as well, because it's in your ward.
I supported the Willows, the concept. I did not. I think I might have been the only one that did not support the lease agreement. I just didn't think there were enough benchmarks that left it wide open.
The original or the extension, or both?
Both. There's nothing in that. All the responsibility comes to the township.
Yes.
We're going to pay the $1.7 million up front, and there's no benchmarks that say they have to meet certain states by certain dates. So they have a 30-year lease. It could be wide open for 30 years, and we've lost that $1.7 million. Again, I hope it succeeds.
Yes.
They did a fundraiser, I believe, a few weeks ago. I heard it was a success with the residents.
Good.
And I'm looking forward to hearing those numbers early in January. But they still have, I think they have a long road to go to raise that $5 million.
Here we are sitting in December, and you must be gearing up for next year mentally. What are the issues you think that you and the rest of the commissioners will be tackling next year?
I've got a couple issues that have started this year, but we'll see some resolution next year, and that's the stormwater project in West Wayne Preserve. It's moving forward. I think the money's there, and we'll get that before the board here by the end of the spring. Second issue is we've got a Morse Road streetscape where all the trees are in a declining state and need to be replaced. That's one of my favorite roads in the township. It's the last road if you're going out west of the township, it's usually the road you take to leave the township, or if you're coming in to the township, it's the first road you see. So I think it's important that road symbolize what Radnor Township is. And then a third issue which has come up over the last couple of weeks is this TAP trail, which is the bike trail.
Yes.
And there's a proposed crossing at Lenore and Conestoga. And I just don't think that's a safe crossing for children. And I'm going to work to try to move that to where we have a current crosswalk down at South Devon, and it continues to go. Part of my platform and my values is that we've got to do better to protect our children.
Well, it was a busy year. It promises to be at least as busy next year.
maybe a bit more contentious. I hope not. I truly hope not.
Yeah, I've had some
Not just
conversations.
for your sake, but for ours.
Yeah,
as well.
I agree.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
You as well.
This has been Commissioner's Corner with Commissioner, 6th Ward Commissioner Jake Abel. Until next time, take very good care of yourselves.